Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Bizet's Le Pecheurs de Perles, known in English as The Pearl Fishers, which was shown at the Kino der Kulturbauerei and was live streamed from the Metropolitan Opera House. The conductor was Maestro Gianandrea Noceda. The set designer was Dick Bird. The production was done by Penny Woodcock. The costumes were done by Kevin Pollard. The lights were done by Jen Shriver. The projections were done by 59 Projections, and the videographer was Matthew Diamond. Now, Pecheurs de Perles, or The Pearl Fishers, is pretty much the second most well-known opera composed by Georges Bizet. The first one being that of Carmen. And as you can tell from a lot of the different vlogs that I've done about different productions of Carmen, you can already tell that this is also not only one of the most famous Bizet operas of all time, but also one of my personal favorites as well. I was also introduced to this opera by chance because as a huge hardcore Carmen fan, I was kind of unaware of this opera's existence. Heck, a lot of other Bizet operas like La Jolie Fille de Perles, Jalmier, and even that of Le Docteur Miracle, among many others, were not really that well known as opposed to Carmen and the Pearl Fishers. And I stumbled upon a CD which starred the likes of Janine Michaud as Leila, Nicolas Gueda as Nadir, Ernest Blanc as Zurga, and Jacques Mars as Nourabat. And when I first listened to it, I was kind of impressed. The ones that really stuck well to me were the opening chorus, the tenor-baritone duet Au fond du temple sang, in which I kind of wish to sing this duet singing Nadir's lines and hopefully have a baritone sing Zurga's lines. Hey, a guy can dream. And even the likes of Nadir's aria Je crois entendre, in which he sings a lot of these wonderful high pianissimo notes, and even Leila's virtuoso aria, Comme autrefois, among many others. So this was definitely a very interesting and very great introduction to this opera in general, and I really enjoyed everything about it. And the biggest standout for me was really the tenor-baritone duet Au fond du temple sang, because it had a lot of really fine melodies, and when you have the right tenor and the right baritone to sing this wonderful duet, you know for a fact that it's going to run really, really well. So even though my introduction to this opera really came by chance, I really have to say that my time with this opera was quite interesting. And not to mention, this was also the 10th anniversary of the Metropolitan Opera releasing these different live streams. And speaking of the Metropolitan Opera, this was also kind of a landmark opera, as it also had Enrico Caruso singing the role of Nadir back in like the 1910s, 1920s. And I wasn't really so sure if this opera was performed in Italian or in its native French, but this was basically one of the operas that Caruso was involved in. And in terms of this live stream, I was quite excited for it because it also starred who has to be one of my most favorite singers of all time, and I also saw her in La Traviata like a year and 9 months ago at the Royal Opera House, Diana Damrau singing the role of Leila. And I could really tell that she was also in fabulous company by 3 other fine singers, in which I'll get to later when I talk about them. So first, let's start off with what I thought about the production. Now, in typical productions of The Pearl Fishers, you would usually expect a sandy beach, waves of water from the ocean, trees, and people dressing up in colorful costumes, and you'd usually have some of the men exposing their tops, being topless and all that, and you'd usually expect a lot of the characters to really be in some really fine and really sexy clothing. Well, that was also kind of the clothing at the time of, like, let's say, the early times in India. And you'd usually expect something very exotic and very much colorful and very much gorgeous to look at. But with this production, this sets the opera in like the late to mid 20th century India, where we have a lot of these vendors selling stuff in bungalows, and they're in different clothings and not just the traditional Indian clothing. And you also see some suited men in the opera as well, and you even see Zurga in sort of like the clothing at the time, and Leila and Nurabad being more traditionally dressed. And, well, I kind of find it interesting. And not to mention, in the third act, you even get to see the inside of Nadir's office. What's also quite striking about this production is how it managed to open, as we see that there is, like, what has to be a backdrop of the bottom of the sea, and we see two acrobat artists performing stunts via cable, as if though we're given the illusion that they are swimming. I thought that was the major highlight. So overall, I really felt like this production was very much interesting, and the biggest highlight for me especially was definitely the water effects, and even seeing those acrobatists really do their things and just perform their stunts to the best of their abilities. And we even get to see how it was all done. So kudos to the Met for really showing us how this was all done. And now we get to the singers. Now, I really have to say that this is the part I am extremely excited to talk about, especially if you have a star cast with Diana Damrau, Matthew Polenzani, Mariusz Kwiecien, and Nicolas Testè. Let's start off with Diana Damrau as Leila. Now, the thing about Leila is that she needs a lyric coloratura soprano voice. Now, the thing is, it's basically not in the usual standard coloratura soprano repertoire, unlike the quote-unquote big girls of the lyric coloratura soprano repertoire. You know the ones. Rosina from Barbieres de Sevilla, Zerbinetta from Ariadne auf Naxos, Gilda from Rigoletto, Oscar from Ballo in Maschera, Blonda and Constanze from The Abduction of the Seraglio, and even that of, Lakme from Lakme. And if you go to the more light lyrical line, Lauretta from Gianni Schicchi, and Pamina from Magic Flute. So a lot of lyric coloratura sopranos and even light lyric sopranos all flock to sing Leila, mostly because she has a lot of fine, virtuoso lines, and even that fine aria that she sings in the second act. So with Diana Damrau as Leila, what more can I say about her? She is a complete performer. She sings very well. When she has to sing her pianissimos, she sings them in the most elegant way possible, letting everything in, using that very fine technique which she is very well known for, and her clean, spot-on articulation. I really felt that she is a master when it comes to fine vocal production and an overall sense of drama. She really exceeds in these fields very well, and exceptionally just wonderful. She was exceptionally great in this role, because it's no surprise she's also performed this role for quite some time, and even sang an aria from this opera in one of her albums. So one can say that she is a veteran in this role, and I could really see the joy, the different dimensions that she's had with this character, the mannerisms, everything. She really shone in this role. And then we have our main hero, Nadir, sung by Matthew Polenzani. The thing about Nadir is that he needs a light lyric tenor with some spinto qualities. Any tenor that has sung the likes of Tamino, Don Ottavio, Pedrillo, Belmonte, the Duke from Rigoletto, Edgardo from Lucia, Fenton from Falstaff, Almaviva from Barbiere di Siviglia, Tonio from Nephew de Régiment, Gérald from Lacme, and to some extent, maybe Bacchus from Ariadne, Narobot from Salome, and Riccardo from Un ballo in maschera. Matthew Polenzani was a tenor. I've been following his career for quite some time. He's basically specialized in a lot of the light lyric tenor roles and has slowly built up to the meteor lyric roles. And this is him at his finest. In an interview, he even stated that he sang this aria, well, the Je crois entendre, as his audition piece before he got into college. And with his experience in this aria, I really have to say that he did a flawless job. His portrayal of Nadir is quite well done as well, but his major strength was his voice, because it's no surprise this gentleman has specialized in a lot of Mozart works, bel canto works, French works, German works, everything, you name it, he has done it and has proved himself time and time again that he is a wonderful singer in terms of technicalities, in terms of really fine execution, and even with fine diction. He really did very well in his part as Nadir, singing the role of his friend Zurga and even also the chieftain of the people. We have the very wonderful baritone Mariusz Kwiecien. Now the thing about Zurga is that he's attracted a lot of lyric baritones and even dramatic baritones, no matter what their fach really is. Any baritone who has sung the likes of Papageno, Guglielmo, the Count Almaviva from Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, or even Mazzetto, and to some extent Rigoletto, Renato from Ballo in Maschera, Don Carlo di Vargas from La Forza del Destino, Posa from Don Carlo, Iago from Otello, Francesco Moore from I Masnadieri, Carlo from Hernani, and many other cavalier baritone roles. Lots of baritones, whether they be from the lyrical or dramatic fach, all flock to sing this thankless yet rewarding character. And with Mariusz Kwiecien, I have to say, vocally, he does splendidly. I wasn't too crazy about his acting in the first act. He was just okay in terms of his acting. But he got a lot better and more pumped up in the third act, where he really got involved. And then in the final act, you could really tell that he kind of used a lot of power, so he kind of felt a little bit drained, but regardless, he still soldiered on, he still muscled on, and gave a very fine and equally moving performance of this very wonderful yet very thankless character. So kudos to you, Monsieur Kwiecien, you did very wonderfully. And then we have the very thankless role of the Brahmin priest Nurabad, sung by Nicolas Testè. The thing about Nurabad is that, yes, this role is rather thankless, but nonetheless, he's basically garnered a lot of bassos who specialize in the bass baritone and the basso cantante repertoire to really flock to sing this extremely thankless character. Any basso who has sung the likes of Nila Canta from Lacme, Don Basilio from Barbiere di Siviglia, and even that of Moser from Masnadieri and Monterone from Rigoletto, have all and even the monk from Don Carlo have even all flocked to sing this wonderful yet very thankless role. And I thought that Nicolas Testè gave a very riveting performance of this character role. His presence was strong and quite intimidating. But it's an exciting form of intimidating because he had the audience in the palm of his hand. His manner, his execution, his diction, his overall presence, both vocally and dramatically, were all flawless. So the singers were absolutely in their A game. And special kudos goes to Diana Damrau for such a moving and very gorgeous and wonderful portrayal of Leila, a character that she sung and acted with such passion, and it's no surprise that she has been singing this role for quite some time. I also kind of expect that she's going to sing the Three Queens in the near future, but a guy can dream again. And the conducting done by Maestro Gianandrea Noceda was quite well done, especially when it came to the Met Chorus. Yeah, the Met Chorus never disappoints, so they really did an absolutely fabulous job singing their lines very well, and with Gianandrea Noceda, he really led the orchestra in such a strong manner. So overall, I have to say that this was definitely a wonderful production of Le Pecheurs de Perles. And if you haven't seen this opera yet, then please go check it out. If you want to hear it on CD, then do listen to the version with Janine Michaud, Nicolas Gueda, Ernest Blanc, and Jacques Miles, or whoever you feel like is really great in these four principal roles. I swear, especially if you have Diana Damrau on the helm of any opera, you will never, repeat, never be disappointed. Well, that's all for now for this review of Bizet's Le Pecheurs de Perles. Tune in for another review. So until then, good night, everybody. Oh, and in 2 weeks from now, we're going to have Turandot, which is also live streamed from the Met. So I am definitely going to be reviewing that, as it also stars Nina Stemme in the title role and Marco Berti as Calaf. So do look out for that review for sure. Good night, everybody.